Good day, duelists, and what a good day it is. I'm holding in my hands a piece of Duel Masters history. The 6th set of Duel Masters, Stomp-A-Trons of Invincible Wrath, was probably the single most memorable set in all of Duel Masters. Not only was the game itself at that time probably the biggest it's ever been, but DM06 was the first ever 120 card expansion we got, and it brought with it some of the most memorable cards in Duel Masters, like the Invincible spells, Bliss Totem, Craze Valkyrie, and who could forget the great Bometia Steel Dragon, arguably the poster child for this game. What I have here is a sealed box for the Stomp-A-Trons set, which of course I will unseal and break open for you in this video. I hope you enjoy. So first of all, looking at the box itself, you can see that it has the classic Wizards shrink wrap that all of the Wizard sealed boxes had, which is a good sign, but you will notice that the shrink wrap itself, the seal, is a bit torn here. So it's not perfect, and I have this slight fear in the back of my head that the box might be like resealed or fake, but it looks good at first glance at least, and I guess we'll see it when we open it. Let's remove the shrink wrap and get into the box itself. And there it is, a beautiful unopened box of DM06 Stomp-A-Trons of Invincible Wrath. It says here contains 24 booster packs, DM06, we have Shobu's head at the front of the box, and of course some DM06 creatures like Bliss Totem over here, we can see him, I think this is Craze Valkyrie, and what else do we have here? We have the turtle, was it Overlord Caster or what it was called, and a bunch of other things. Turning the box around, we can see here on the side we have some of the most iconic creatures from DM06, Bometia, Craze Valkyrie, Shuka, and Bliss Totem, of course. And turning the box around, on this side it just says duelmasters.com, which of course is not working in 2025, but contains 24 boosters, each with 10 games cards plus a collectible puzzle card. And over here we have fantastic text. It says, destroy all your opponent's creatures or give all your creatures plus 8000 power. These are but 2 of the abilities of 5 very rare premium spells. Plus use creatures like Tank Mutant and Rikabu's Screwdriver to stomp with Wrath. Of course they're talking about tap abilities, which I believe is the set in which those were introduced as well. And over here we see the starter pack that they released for DM06. It even says new players should begin with the Duel Masters 2-player starter set. I have of course unboxed this on my channel, so if you want you can go and check that one out. And over on the bottom of the box we just see some legal information, of course released by Wizards of the Coast and whatnot. Nothing really interesting here, so let's return to the top of the box and open it up to get to what really matters, which is the contents, the 24 booster packs. Now I'm not exactly sure how this box opens because I haven't really opened Duel Masters boxes before, but I think it's supposed to open here around Shobu's hair. I opened a box of DM02 or 01 before and somebody told me that I opened it the wrong way, so let's try to open it the right way this time around. Oh, never mind, it doesn't. I thought it was supposed to crack open around Shobu's hair, but I think you're just supposed to open it up like this, and you use Shobu's hair as a display, like this. So there we go, we opened the Duel Masters box the correct way. I cannot believe it, wow, incredible. And so far at least, it looks legit. It really does. It does look like this contains the 24 packs of DM06 Stomp-A-Trons of Invincible Wrath. Let me just take one in my hand. And it does look like they are legit Duel Masters packs. I had a little bit of a worry that they might be fake, but apparently they are not. They are perfect as they are, and we will start opening them up. Alright, so let's start with the very first pack, which features Bometia Steel Dragon on it. Of course, it's one of the cards I would like to pull the most, but we'll see how that goes. We will open up the pack carefully, take out the cards that are inside it, And there we go. We have, of course, the puzzle card that will be in every single pack. I have the full puzzles already in my collection, so I don't care all that much about it. But it says get free stuff here, so you can join the DMAX club and get cool stuff. Of course, you can no longer do this in 2025, but you could back in the day if you so wanted. Alright, and we have Spastic Missile. Destroy one of your opponent's creatures that has power 3000 or less. And before even going further, just looking at this, look at the perfect condition. These packs have been pretty well preserved. The box was a bit scrappy, but the cards themselves look absolutely beautiful. And the smell of new cards is just really great. Then we have Shock Hurricane, which can return a bunch of your creatures and your opponent's creatures from the battle zone to the hand. We had Cantankerous Giant. It's a double breaker. We have our very first uncommon. Why are the uncommons at this slot? Forbidding Totem is a rare, and we have our very first foil. We have Invincible Abyss. We already got an invincible spell. Destroy all of your opponent's creatures. Incredible. We got a foil in our very first pack, but I'm not sure why it's in the middle of the pack. That's just a bit of a weird place to put it. Is there something fishy here, or is this how all DM06 packs have been? I mean, the card itself is original, it's fine. I'm just wondering why it's at the very middle of the pack. But alas, we have this beautiful flavor text about the war between nature and darkness civilization, which I won't read because it's too long, but you can do so if you so desire. So our very first foil already in the first pack. Then we have our commons in Slumber Shell, Vest the Oracle, Phantom Dragon's Flame, Zorvas the Bone Crusher, and Steam Star. So I guess I'm supposed to open it the other way around, right? We'll go into this next pack that has Shuka featured on it, Duke of Amnesia, and this pack I completely botched and I didn't open in the nice way, but alas, we have our puzzle piece once again, and then it's time to get into the cards themselves. We have Lightning Grass, Mighty Bandit, Ace of Thieves, then we have Sopian, one of the Cyber Lords that you could play. Then we have Grinning Axe, the Monstrosity. I used to love this card as a kid. For some reason, I really liked the idea of a cheap Slayer. Plus, it looked really cool to me for some reason. Then we have Torch Clencher, which is another common. And our next card is Connoisseur the Explorer. And we have Factory Shell Q. This is a really good card. It's pretty much what makes the survivor engine work. When you put it into the battle zone, you can search one of your survivors, and of course, since your other survivors get this ability as well, you can just keep chaining this ability. Survivor is an interesting archetype because it came out in DM05, but it only got the good cards in DM06, like Factory Shell, so there we go. And then we have Gigagriff, so it seems like no foil in this pack. Cutthroat Skytower is another card that I really like. I think it's quite an underrated card and it can see some good usage. And then we have Protective Force, which just powers up one of your blockers. Next up, a pack featuring Bliss Totem, Avatar of Luck on it. So let's open it up and see what we can get from it. We have once again the... oh shit! We have the puzzle piece, which is actually the same one as we got from last pack. What are the odds? And we have cards. Connoisseur the Explorer, again the same common that we got last time in last pack. Carrier Shell, 3 mana 2000 power attacker plus 3000. This is a reprint of Sword Butterfly, and I always really like this stat line, especially in draft. Like a 3 mana creature that can go up to 5000 is really not all that bad. Oh, then I dropped a Spiral Gate, which is another common, but Spiral Gate is of course a very good card that's been reprinted in every single set or big set in Duel Masters. But I think this artwork, it's like the original one but with pink hair. I think this artwork is by far and away the best Spiral Gate artwork out there. Then we have Cursed Pinter, another 4 mana 2000 Slayer blocker. We have Automated Weapon Master Makai. And our next card is... Oh wait, it's not the foil time yet. It's Chekiku the Oracle, but our next card is... Cosmogold Spectral Knight. Not a foil, but our rare is not all that bad. This guy as well, you can keep tapping it and getting cards from your mana zone to your hand, which can lead to some loops with like Bliss Totem and a bunch of other cards. Then for our uncommons we have Paradise Horn, then Shock Hurricane once again, and our final uncommon is Moontear Spectral Knight. This card as well is a card that I think, like, on paper it has some potential. 2 mana 3500 and you need to cast a spell but you're getting like an overstated minion. The problem is like Gonta came out 4 sets later, which puts this card to absolute shame, and you're like, why, you know, why would I play this card when I can get overstated minions in a different way? So yeah, kind of a shame. But alas, we will open up our next pack, and man, I'm terrible at opening these packs. Holy crap, okay. Moving on, we have another puzzle piece, which I think goes hand in hand with this one that we got, because we have like Daedalus' wing somehow. I think it's supposed to connect, but I'm very bad at puzzles, so I can't figure this out. Ah, there we go. For the life of me, I knew it was supposed to connect somehow. Anyway, we have Choya the Unheeding, a card that you can play if you're trying to make a humans deck with Valdios and such. Yugok the Oracle, another one of those cards that requires you to cast a spell to summon it. And I've said this many times before, but Oracles, like Lightbringers, are pretty much my favorite, or one of my favorite races in Duel Masters. I just love the way they look. They're like so cute, they're just balls doing their own thing. Trench Scarab is another card that I really liked to play in these, like I used to play it as a kid, I used to play it in the GBA games, I really like it in draft. Getting up to 7000 power when it attacks is a threat, it can take pretty much anything off the board. Then we have Pompeius Q, another survivor that came out in DM06, but this is not one of the good ones this time around. It doesn't have any ability. The only reason why I'd play it is because it inherits the abilities of other survivors, but that's never been good enough to include in a deck. Then we have Lone Tier, Shadow of Solitude, again a solid card to play in Darkness aggro decks. And Pyrofighter Magnus, one of the Duel Masters classics. Of course, really good card and really strong, sees play in a lot of decks, not just aggressive ones, but control ones as well. And it's actually made my top 10 fire cards list if you want to go ahead and watch that video. And for our rare, we have Rikaboo Screwdriver. This is not a bad one to pull. This is a card that people really like to play. It's kind of fallen out of favor in the recent times. It's kind of lost some of its popularity. But I remember when I started to collect Duel Masters like 2 years ago, this card would sell for something like 20 bucks, which is kind of crazy for just a simple creature, a simple rare. We have Cantankerous Giant once again for uncommon. Hazard Crawler is another card that I played a lot of as a kid just because I really like blockers. And then we have Pangea's Will, which is an interesting counter to evolution creatures, but it's just so bad that it never saw any play. Next pack with another Bometheus on the front. We've only seen one foil so far, so I'd really like to pull some more foils. You know, there's a bunch of cards that I'd like to see. Of course Bometheus, but also Gigazard and a bunch of others. Let's see if we can get any of that. Junkat's Rabbit Doll. Then we have another automated Weapon Master Makai. We're gonna start seeing a lot of duplicate commons. Sphere of Wonder is a really interesting one, especially for those early formats. It can give you some shields before Skysword came out, of course. Then we have another Sopian. We have Invincible Technology. There we go. There is another foil, and this is one of my favorite Invincible cards ever, and just look at that pristine condition that it's in. It's absolutely beautiful. Not only does this card look absolutely sick, but its effect is just so amazing. You can search your deck and literally cheat any single card you want to your hand. You can just stack your hand with whatever you want to blow out your opponent. I really like this card. Of course 13 mana is a is a big price to pay for it, but you know, if you can resolve it, it's really, really good. Then next up we have Charmelia the Enticer. I was actually missing some of this card, so I'm happy to pull this. Again, this is a card that was kind of underexplored in the early days of Duel Masters, but nowadays I feel like people have started to catch on that it's kind of a really good value engine if you manage to stick it on board. So I'm really happy to see a Charmelia actually. And Bliss Totem Avatar of Black, another really sought after card from this set. You can just read the effect and you can tell that it's just absolutely crazy. Puts 3 cards into your mana zone. Of course, the downside is that you need to play it and you need to wait a turn for it to resolve its effect, which usually means that it will die, which is why it hasn't seen that much competitive play, but still a really cool card nonetheless. Then we have Overload Cluster. Yeah, I got the name of the turtle right that I saw on the box. I wasn't sure if I remembered it correctly. It's like a 5 mana 4000 that gets blocker sometimes. It's not a great card and I'm not sure why they decided to include it on the box art, but there we go. And finally, Proclamation of Death, just a classic. It gets rid of a creature on the board, although it is of your opponent's choice. Let's see, we have a pack with Craze Valkyrie on it, another card that I would really love to pull. So far we've pulled 2 foils, which is not terrible, but of course I would like to see some super rares as well, not just very rares. Another puzzle piece that we will skip over, and we have Chekikul, Vizier of Endurance, Fairy Life, another really good card. Of course it's a common, so it's not that valuable, but it's still a very, very good card in Duel Masters, especially in the later sets as the game went on. Energy Stream is another card that I was missing some copies, so I'm very happy to see it. Tentacle Worm is not a card that I'm necessarily happy to see, but there we go. Armored Scout, Gestuhar. I haven't seen this card in my life. What does it do? While you have no other fire creatures in the battle zone, this creature has Power Attacker plus 3000 and Double Breaker. I guess that's not the most terrible thing. It's a 5 mana Double Breaker. Not great, but not terrible. Oh, Bometheus! Oh my god, we put a fucking Bometheus. That's like $300 right there, and look at it. It's an absolute pristine condition, freshly packed, freshly pulled Bometheus from a pack. I cannot fucking believe it. Look at it. Oh my hands are shaking. I can't believe we actually pulled a Bometheus. Let me bring a sleeve for it. God damn. Incredible. We managed to actually pull a Bometheus Steel Dragon, freshly pulled from the pack. It's just absolutely beautiful. I can't believe we managed to pull a Bometheus. This is already an incredible box just because of this pull alone. Oh my lord. King Triumphant. What does this do? Oh, it's another one of those conditional blockers. That's 8 mana 7000. But at this point, I don't even care. Like, we got a Bometheus, man. We're cooking. We're absolutely cooking. Adonis the Oracle, and then another Hazard Crawler for our final card. My hands are still shaking. I mean, that's obviously like the card that you want the most out of this pack, right? Absolutely beautiful. Alright. Puzzle piece once again. Carrier Shell. Let's go back to our commons. Spiral Gate. We've seen this one before. Cursed Pincher. Pincher? Is that how you read that word? I don't know. Automated Weapon Master Makai once again. Chekikul, Vizier of Endurance, and Fairy Life. And for our rare for this pack, we have Cutronic Gargantua. Now this is actually a good one. And I actually don't have some good condition ones, so I'm happy to be pulling this one. It's pretty much what makes or what gives the Survivor engine that final punch. It breaks one extra shield for every survivor that you have, so the plan is that you use Factory Shell to just flood the board of survivors and then use Cutronic Gargantua for one final punch. So there we go. Then we have Migasa, Adept of Chaos. We have Rain of Arrows, and then finally Lupa, Poison Tipped Dole. And for our next pack, let's see what we get here. Can we pull a second Bometheus? That would just be absolutely ridiculous, wouldn't it? But I would also like, you know, Craze Valkyrie, I would like Giga Cloud and a bunch of other things. Anyway, Madrillion Fish for our common Death Smoke, the Death Smoke reprint, which is just the same as the original one, but with some weird colors. When I was a kid, I actually thought like this card was like fake or it was like a glitch in the printing process, because it just looks like the original Deathsmoke, but if something went wrong with the printer, you know what I'm saying? Then we have Choya, the Unheeding. We've seen this before. Yuluk, the Oracle, once again. We have Trench Scarab, and then Prometheus Q. Let's read that properly. Then we have Graveworm Q for our rare. We can build like an entire survivor package from here, it seems. Rumblesaur Q, another survivor that gives survivor speed attacker. And another one of these giants. We already had like 3 or 4 of these ones. And then Future Sash, another great card for deck-out decks. Deck-out decks are, of course, you know, a part of Duel Masters history. They've always been there. They've kind of become less prevalent since people discovered that you can just spam Fortress Shells and win the late game that way, but it's still like a really good card. Alright, next up, we are not even halfway through the box, I think, and we already got a Prometheus. That's all we really wanted, right? Fairy Life once again, Energy Stream, another Energy Stream, I love seeing those. Tentacle Worm, then we have Armored Scout Gestuhar again. An Armaloid's career has 2 stages, Fearsome Warrior and Scrap Metal. There we go, gotta love the Duel Masters flavor text. Cheng Trang, Vizier of Blades. This card, when it came out, I thought it wasn't that bad. Like, it just can keep tapping opponents' things so that they can never stick a minion on board. But then Techno Totem came out later, and boy does it make this card look really bad in comparison. Then we have Carrier Shell. It looks like we're not getting a foil in this pack, but we are getting Living Citadel Vosh. Which is actually not a bad card. Like, it's a decent effect, you can keep ramping yourself up with it. The problem is you have to put it on one of your colony beetles, which is really not a great race to evolve on. We have Innocent Hunter, Blade of Woe. This card has always been very, very interesting. And then Davatore, Seeker of Clouds. This was the first hand trap ever released. When it's discarded from your hand, you can instead summon it, so it's meant to counter all of the discard in the game. And then Migasa, Adept of Chaos. There we go. So let's move on to the next pack. So far only 3 foils, but one of those foils was really good, so I can't really complain about it, you know. We have Puzzle Piece, of course. Then Kanesil the Explorer. We have Fairy Life once again. Zepimetrius, 1 mana 2000 blocker, it's not a bad one, cheap blockers are always decent. Grinning Axe once again, and Automated Weapon Master Makai. And our next card is another Cheng Trang, Vizier of Blades. We have Telito the Explorer. I don't remember this card. When you put this creature into the battle zone, look at your shields and put them back where they are. I guess it's not a terrible effect, but here's the thing though, good players can get the same effect by playing like any card that looks through your deck, something like a Rumbling Terrahorn or something, because if you know all the cards in your deck, you can deduce which cards are in your shields, so that type of interaction kind of makes this card just look a bit bad by comparison. Then we have Featherhorn the Tracker. I always love the way this card looks, I think it looks really cool. And then we have Bazooka Mutant, and our final card is Razor Pine Tree, which is always a fun one. It gets plus 2000 power for each shield you have. I think if this card had a clause that said something like if it has 6000 or more power, it gets Double Breaker, it would become way more viable than it currently is. Alright, let's move on to the next pack. Let's hope to pull some more foils. This pack, I cannot open it properly for the life of me. Let's try to open it from the bottom, I guess. There we go. So, cards. Puzzle card. Once again, it's like the 3rd or 4th time I've seen this one. Grinning Axe. Then we have Lone Tier. Picara's Wrench, we haven't seen this one before, it's a 2 mana 2000 vanilla. Then we have Bagas, Vizier of Electrons, not bad if you're playing an Initiate deck honestly. It's a vanilla, but it's a good vanilla. Illusion Berry, and then we have Aqua Rider, which I think this one I also put in the top 10 worst cards list because it's just like so bad. It's a 4 mana 2000, or this one I didn't put, but a similar one. It's a 4 mana 2000, which is a terrible stat line. But then also like it's not even blocker all the time, which is just kind of horrible. Midnight Crawler is a card I always really liked how it looked. I think the art on this card is absolutely sick. When you put it into the battle zone, you can choose a card in your opponent's mana zone and return it to the hand. Obviously the effect is not great. I mean, Fortress Shell just puts this card to shame. Of course it's a double breaker, but how much do you really care about that? Another proclamation of that for our uncommon, Panagea's Will once again, and Montier Spectral Knight for our final card of the pack. Moving on to the next one. Let's see what we get here. I cannot open packs properly for the life of me, but that's okay. So let's see what we get here. Puzzle piece, of course, don't care about that. Cheng Trang, Vizier of Blades, then Carrier Shell, and Zapimetrius once again. Grimsoul, Shadow of Reversal. We have Legionary Lizard. This is a card that I always really liked as a kid. I thought the concept of giving your thing speed attacker was just like, it had so much potential, right? You could like play this and give like your Prometheus speed attacker, which is something that I think Shobu actually did in the anime at some point. But you could also use it like with tap abilities like Declawaz or something similar. I thought the concept of Legendary Lizard was just really cool. And we have another foil, a very rare. Unfortunately, it's probably the worst one that we can get out of this set. It's a 5 mana 4000, it can't attack players, and it has the effect that evolution creatures are put into the battle zone tapped, which is just kind of an underwhelming effect for such an understated minion, but a foil is a foil nonetheless. Then we have Shuka, Duke of Amnesia. This is of course a really cool card and it's a classic of Duel Masters. I recently tried to make this work in a deck that I played in a tournament. It didn't really go that well, but I think there's potential. Neon Cluster, this has something on it. I don't know what that was. This is another card that I really used to like as a kid. I thought this card was actually just sick. If you manage to stick it on the board, you can just keep drawing cards with it. So it has potential, but unfortunately it's 7 mana, which is a lot to ask for. Comet Missile, of course. Wait, did I? Oh yeah, Shuka was a rare. I should put it in the rare column. Comet Missile, a card that's used in some rush or aggro strategies, and then another Panagea's Will. Let's then move on to the next pack, which is this one. And let's see what we can get from it. We'll toss away the puzzle piece and Energy Stream. Once again, we're getting like almost a playset of Energy Streams, which I don't mind. Tentacle Worm. I think we've always seen a Tentacle Worm after the Energy Stream, which is kind of funny. The odds of that are not great. The Armored Scout once again. Cheng Trang once again. Then we have Carrier Shell that we have seen before. And another super rare this time around. It's Ultra Mantis Scourge of Fate. It's 6 mana 9000, pretty much unblockable. Of course, like just giant pile of stats, double breaking meatballs are not that great in competitive play. But this is still a cool card and it's a super rare that we managed to get. I am not mad at all about that. Let's move on to our rare, which is Intense Evil. This card is just like, I don't know, I always thought that this card was just weird. Like it has the effect that you can destroy any number of your creatures, and for each one destroyed you can draw a card, which if you think about it, to get the Energy Stream effect, you have to already destroy 2 of your creatures, which is already kind of shit, right? So you have to destroy 3 or more of your creatures to get an effect that's better than Energy Stream, which is just like, not enough upside, I don't feel. Then we have Future Sash, once again, good card to pull. Protective Force for another uncommon, and Neon Cluster for our final card of the pack. Let's move on to the next one. I think we're already like way through half the box. So far our only like really great pull is the Prometheus. The Invincible spells, of course, I'm not too unhappy to see, and the Ultraman is another foil, I guess, that we got. Lone Tear, We are also getting a fat stacks of common. Pyrofighter Magnus, of course, always a nice card to pull. Canister the Explorer. Then we have Fairy Life. Next up, Zepimetheus. Grinning Axe, the Monstrosity. And Cosmogold Spectral Knight for our rare. Then we have Kokolupia. We haven't seen this before. I've heard that this card has recently increased in value because apparently like Japanese players are really liking dragons and firebirds or something like that. Kokolupia sells for quite a lot nowadays, even though it's just an uncommon, so I'm not unhappy to see that for sure. Innocent Hunter, Blade of Woe, and finally Skullcutter, Swarm Leader for our final card. Let's move on to the next pack, hoping to pull some more foils. And let's see what we get in this one. We have another Zepimetheus. We've seen quite a lot of these. Grim Soul, Shadow of Reversal. It can keep returning dark creatures from your graveyard into your hand. Legendary Lizard. We've talked about this one before. Sphere of Wonder. Once again. Garabon the Guider. There we go. Oh my god, the best pull in the entire pack. It's a great card. It's absolutely amazing. Then we have Steam Star for our common. Geriel, Elemental of Sunbeams. This is a card that I've always wanted to experiment with. Like, it's really not a terrible one. 5 mana for 7500 double breaking angel command. It sounds decent on paper, especially if you combine it with like Alcadias in an angel command deck. It's a card that I think maybe has some amount of very small potential. Paradise Horn is next. Few places on the planet still know the joy of absolute peace. Paradise Horn makes sure this is one of them. How beautiful and poetic. And Rumblesaur Q for our final card of the pack. Moving on to the next one, we don't have that many packs left. But that is fine because we already got some amount of decent pulls. I mean, already just getting a Prometheus is fantastic. Oh, and look at this card. What happened here? I don't know if you can see this on camera, but the corner is very scuffed on this card. It's a Garabon the Glider. Oh my god. But it has a very scuffed corner. Which is a shame, but it is what it is. At least it didn't happen to one of our foils, right? It's just a common, although it is a Garabon the Glider, which is maybe as good as any foil. Religionary Gizzard next. Vest the Oracle. I was actually missing these cards, or a playset of Vest. I was missing it for the longest of times, and I couldn't build my Starnoid deck because of it. Then our next card is Trench Scarab. It seems like we're not getting a foil this time around, but we're getting Frost Spectre, Shadow of Age, and again, this one is a very classic card that you can build your deck around. There have been some Ghost Evolution decks throughout the history of Duel Masters that utilize this card. It gives each of your ghosts there, and together with Jag Viper, you can make some decent swing plays. Another Davatori, Seeker of Clouds. Mystic Dreamscape is another card that I really like. You read it and you go like, you return 3 cards from your mana zone to your hand, which is not great early on, but late game this can be a lot of value. And our final card is one Spastic Missile, which just destroys something with 3000 or less. This is a discussion to be had as well, because there's not that many 3000 power cards in Duel Masters, so this just throughout Duel Masters history and the competitive modern landscape, this just always took a backseat to cards like Crimson Hammer or Volcano Charger, or even just Tornado Flame, because 4000 creatures are relevant, 2000 creatures are relevant, but 3000 creatures, yeah, not that much. So there we go. Moving on. Ooh, we saw one card from there. Junka's Rabbit Doll. Then we have Pyrofighter Magnus. Once again, got a lot of Pyrofighter Magnuses, which I like to see. Lightning Grass. Then we have Mighty Bandit, Ace of Thieves. Our next card is Sopian, the Cyber Lord. Grinning Axe, the Monstrosity, and it seems like no foil once again, but a Q-Tronic Gargantua, which is a good card, so I cannot be too mad about it. And then we have Mystic Dreamscape. Once again, we're just talking about it. Skullcutter, Swarm Leader, and our final card, which we peeked at before, is Thrashcrawler. And Thrashcrawler is a really good card. It's a blocker that allows you to get cards back from your mana zone. So what this card does is it allows you to charge your big things early on and then later in the game get them back while developing a blocking body that can help you survive on the board. Next up, we didn't get that many foils so far. We only got 5 of them, which is below average. But I mean, one of them is Bometia, so you know, I can't really complain about that. Once again, this card is a bit scuffed over here. I'm not sure if you can pick it up on camera, but it's a Sphere of Wonder. Some of the commons in the packs. Oh, another Garabon. We got 3 Garabon the Gliders. That's quite a lot. Steam Star then, which is just a 2 mana 1000 vanilla. We have Zorvaz the Bone Crusher. This card is like, the art on this card is really cool. Until you realize it's just like sort of a big meatball that just dies to anything. It's not that bad if you want to try to play a Balam deck just because it's a demon commander, but it's not impressive either. Phantom Dragon's Flame, which we were just talking about cards that you would rather play rather than Spastic Missile. This is definitely one of them. Then we have Vest the Oracle. Again, no foil in this pack, it seems. What is this card? I've never seen this card in my life. Kyoroho. It's a Cyberlord. Whenever an opponent's creature would break a shield, you choose the shield instead of your opponent. Isn't this just a worse version of, what was the card called, Milope? I don't remember what the card was called. I'll put it up on screen, but there was this card that made it so that you would choose your own shields instead of your opponent every time. So for example, if you played something like Cosmic Darts, you would choose the shield. This is only when the opponent breaks your shields, and I think that one had better stats as well, although I can't really remember. But alas, this is our rare, and I guess we'll have to be happy with it. Trash Crawler, once again, 2 Trash Crawlers in a row. Cutthroat, Skyterer, and then Paradise Horn for our final card of the pack. Moving on, we don't have that many packs left, so I really would hope to pull another foil from these packs, at least one more. But we'll see how that goes. We only got 1 super... Oh no, we got 2 super rares. We got Ultramantis as well. That's not that bad then, I guess. Although Ultramantis is not a great one to pull, but it is what it is. Zepimetrius once again. Then we have Grimsoul, Shadow of Reversal. Legendary Lizard once again. Sphere of Wonder. And the next card is another Garabon the Glider. We got a full playset of Garabon the Glider in this box, and oh, we pulled another foil, a Valiant Warrior Exorius, and this is a card that I really like. We had in base set, we had Gatling Skyterer that always had potential because you could slam it down on the board and it would kill all of your opponent's creatures without giving them a chance to act, and this one does the same thing pretty much, and it's 1 mana cheaper. The only problem with it is that 4000 power dies to a lot of like power based removal. For example, one very relevant one is Volcanic Arrows. This dies to that. It dies to Miraculous Rebirth, while Gatling Skyterer doesn't, so there's that downside that makes it not see that much play as it otherwise would. Badlands Lizard is a new one, power attacker plus 3000, and whenever this creature becomes blocked, no battle happens. Cool, I guess. It's meant to counter blocker decks, but it doesn't really do that, honestly. Rain of Arrows once again. Then we have Adomis the Oracle, and our final card of the pack is another Cocolupia, which I'm really happy to see. And for our next pack, I think we only have just a couple left. For our next pack, we will have a puzzle piece. Who would have expected a puzzle piece, am I right? And then for actual cards, we have another Makai. Then we have Cheng Trang, Vizier of Blades. We have another Garabon the Glider. I can't believe this. We put like 5 of them in this one box. That's really not bad. Madrillion Fish. Then Tentacle Worm, and our next card is Daedalus! Whoa, we got Daedalus, General of Fury. This is an incredibly valuable super rare. I'm actually not sure if I own a copy. I'm really excited to having pulled this, and it's beautiful, perfect condition. Look at it, freshly pulled from the pack. It's actually beautiful. It's a card that many people have tried to make work. It doesn't work that much because you need to sacrifice your things for it to attack, but it's still a really cool card that I'm very happy to see. Next up we have a Mystic Treasure Chest, which is a card that has started to see some experimentation, although overall I think Fairy Life is just a little bit better on average. We have Giga Gryph, then we have Protective Force, and our final card of the deck is a Shock Hurricane, and we just have, I think, 4 more packs to go through. Alright, next pack, let's go through it and see what we get. Let's put Shobu's hair in the frame as well, very important that we see it. I'm already very happy with my pulls. I mean, I got a Daedalus, I got a Bometheus, like what more could you possibly want? Zorvas the Bone Crusher once again, Phantom Dragon's Flame, then we have Vest the Oracle, followed by Slumber Shell, then we have Madrillion Fish, and for our oh no, never mind, this is a Death Smoke, and for our rare we have Raptor Fish, another card that I don't think I've ever seen before. It looks really cool. When you put this creature into the battle zone, count the cards in your hand, shuffle those cards into your deck, then draw that many cards. It's honestly not that bad of a card. I kinda like it. It's very poorly statted for 6 mana 3000, but honestly, it's not that terrible. Overload Cluster, we have then Bliss Totem Avatar of Luck, another one, and Razor Pine Tree for our final uncommon. And we can already see half the box being empty. We just have these 3 more packs. Let's see if we can have one final good pull from them, and then we can call it a day. Although already this pack is just beautiful. We got Bometheus, we got Daedalus, that's just incredible, you know? Torch Clencher, then we have Kanesil the Explorer, Carrier Shell. Next card is Spiral Gate. Once again, you can never have enough Spiral Gates. Cursed Pincher, then Automated Weapon Master Makai. Once again, we've seen so many of this card. It's actually kind of crazy. And Factory Shell for our rare. Factory Shell is never bad. Comet Missile for our uncommon, and Featherhorn. And for our final card of the pack, we have Giga Gryph. Alright, just 2 more packs left. Let's see if we can get one more good pull out of these. That would be quite crazy. Of course, I don't have high hopes because there's only 2 packs left, but if we can get another good pull, it would be amazing. So, Aqua Rider, then Zorvas the Bone Crusher, we have Choya the Unheeding, Balas Vizier of Electrons, then Mighty Bandit, Ace of Thieves, and a Spiral Gate, which means once again no foil. But for a rare we get another Charmeleon, and again I'm very happy to see this card because I was missing, like I'm running a lot of Japanese copies of Charmeleon, so I'm really happy to see some in my packs. Moontear, Spectral Knight, then Overload Cluster once again, and Migasa, Adept of Chaos, and we have one final pack to go through. Let's see if we can get like some crazy pull, you know, Gigazard, Crazed Valkyrie, something like that. Of course, it's the last pack, so I'm not that hopeful, but let's see how it goes. We have the puzzle piece, of course, then, oh crap, I dropped my Slumber Shell on the ground, then Madrillion Fish, and we got a Death Smoke, and then a Choya the Unheeding, Yuluk the Oracle, and I believe if there's a foil it's in this place, so I will put it at the bottom. For a rare we have a Rikabu's Screwdriver, we have another Bliss Totem, that's a pretty good uncommon to pull, then a Proclamation of Death, and for our final uncommon we have a Rain of Arrows, and let's see if we can pull a foil out of our final pack. Huh! Oh, there we go, Invincible Aura. So we got 3 out of the 5 invincible spells in our pack. That's really not bad. So a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 foils have been pulled. That's really not bad, especially since some of those foils, I mean, we got this Bometheus Steel Dragon, which is like absolutely beautiful, and this Daedalus General of Fury, both very potent and valuable cards. Let me reorganize these just a little bit. Right, and one final thing I want to see about this box is if among these puzzle pieces we got enough to complete the full puzzle, and you will probably get to see me struggle to complete this puzzle because I always struggle with it, so hopefully that should be at least a little bit fun. And it looks like we did get all of the 9 different puzzle pieces, and if you are curious, this is what the DM06 completed puzzle looks like, if I try to assemble it properly. And that's it, that's the contents of the box we have just unboxed. So in total we got 8 foils, one of which is Prometheus Steel Dragon. Then we have a big fat stack of commons, we got some uncommons, some rares, a completed puzzle piece, and overall I am very happy with this box. I think the pulls were much better than expected, so really exciting to see, and I hope you had a great time watching this. I definitely enjoyed opening this box, and I hope you enjoyed watching too. And with all of that out of the way, duelists, I'm gonna go now and flex my Prometheus Steel Dragon pull. I hope I will see you in the next video, and until then, take care.